This is Vorasius, the second boss of Void Spire, and the intended second boss of the raid. It might swap with Nexus King, so this could also technically be third. Could also be fourth if Chimeras is severely undertuned. We'll be starting off with a hero quad, and then we'll look at the Mythic quad after. So, fight's going to start with the boss doing a pull-in, and then this will end with a knockback and physical damage. This physical damage will be important for the tanks later on. And then we have the tank buster mechanic. So there's going to be a large circle. There's no damage splitting inside the circle. One tank is going to take the first two, and then the other tank will be taking the last two. These first two will put a debuff on the tank. This debuff that you can see on this plot warrior to the left, this increases the physical damage that the tank is taking. So this first one is just a light defensive, probably just be 4 HP and whatever your passive mitigation is. And then this second hit, I'll talk about this mechanic in a short bit. The second hit, the tank does want a decent defensive for it, because you already have the 150% physical vuln. And during this cast, the other tank should be taunting, just because you want to reduce the physical melee attacks of the boss after they take this tank buster. Now when this tank buster does hit the tank, everyone gets dealt raid-wide damage, it's shadow, and then you have this Kulog or Halls of Infusion third boss ring mechanic, where you're basically just dodging into the ring whenever it's convenient. On beta / PTR, it was possible for range to outrange this. I'm fairly confident they're going to remove it, so do plan on dodging these rings. These will most likely one-shot on Mythic. So there's the two tank busters, and then these next two will be taken by the tank that does not have the debuff. And this tank will not get any vuln stacks. So it'll be the same as the very first tank buster that the first tank took. After this fourth hit, we're going to do this dodge, and then the boss is going to do a raid-wide cast. This raid-wide is a constant raid-wide tick every 0.5 seconds. This is a preferred spot to use defensives. You'll see it in the Mythic VOD. During this hero testing, there was no dot attached to it. On Mythic, there is a dot attached to it, and it's most likely been added to hero as well. These swallows are going to pop up. Some of these swallows will contain ads. There should be roughly 7 ads. There should be 1 on the current off tank, and then 6 on random players. When these ads die, they're going to heal up, and we're going to use these to break the walls. On normal, it's 1 ad per wall to break. On heroic, it's 2 ads. On Mythic, it's 3 ads. So you could take the math of 7 total ads, and needing 2, 4, 6 to break. We will need to break both walls to prevent RNG from just obliterating us. So while we're focusing on these ads, the tank buster is going, it's still going to be on the tank who does not have the debuff, and we're still going to be dodging the expanding ring mechanic. These blister creeps, they fixate ECC grip to make them move faster. They do have one cast that they're doing. It's not a damage cast, it's a movement speed shield. It's a snail, 30% snail for 30 seconds stacking. Use your snail removals if you remember what they are from Brute Twister Overdax in Nelva Palace. If you don't know what your snail removal is, you should look it up, or you're just going to wait until your healer notices that you have a magic dispel, and they'll dispel it off for you. Right, so they're working through the ads, trying to get these down. When the ads die, they'll spawn this circle. Make sure you're not in it. If you somehow get caught in this, you'll get a magic debuff for 30 seconds that increases all damage taken by 50%. Pretty rough. And this AoE circle has to overlap the wall in order to break it. So you'll notice they have one over here, there's one over here, they need a second one. When the second one pops, which is going right now, this wall breaks. Do note that as these ads are exploding, they are dealing rate-wide damage. So as that pops, this animation, this is a rate-wide pop. And it comboing with the Tank Buster means that this is also a section where you do want to watch HP. You want to use defensives if you think you're just going to be comboed, or you're going to be ready to push health pot or health stone if there's a gap in between, but there's a chance that the healers might not necessarily heal you because of the fact that half the ads need to be on the left, half the ads need to be on the right. You might be outranging some healers depending on where they're standing. So they killed the left side, they overkilled on the left side, and the right side has still up. They get lucky here. Right here, it's Void Breath. He's going to pick either the left or right side to start based off of his hand. Here he's starting off with the right side, and then he's going to sweep a beam from right to left or left to right. All this means is you're just going to go all the way left or all the way right, and then we're going to Radior and heal CD our way through this. Do not use defensive on this mechanic. And then the fight will repeat, but as I was mentioning at the very start of this fight, this is a physical damage hit after this pull-in. This tank that still has a vulnerability has to treat this as a tank buster now. On Heroic, you don't see it's not all that bad. They do have lost roll up, but you see it when we move over to Mythic. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So while this fight plays out basically the same as it did on Heroic, you still have these Tank Busters, you're still dodging the tail, so it's also infusion mechanic. In a short bit, we're going to get this Wade Wide plus dot. You're going to notice on the Wade frames a whole bunch of DPS defensives and externals are popping up. You're seeing Hunter externals, you're seeing Pinch up, and then you're seeing on the squishier ones, you have Bio, Survival, DP, Bulk Skin. It is a section where you do want to watch HP. And they're going to drag the ads over to kill. You're going to notice basically every single DPS has off the boss. On Mythic, there is no DPS that should be stuck on the boss. Even if you're a single target DPS, you should go over to help a side. And then once your side is done, if you're a ranged DPS, you'll cross over. If you're a melee DPS, you can go back to the boss due to the travel time. So right here, you'll notice they kill all these ads. Once these ads are done, you'll see that Bantus is swapping as a range over onto these ads. And then when he turns his camera over, you'll notice all the melees are basically on the boss, or every single range has fully swapped over to the other set of ads. And you'll notice right here, they barely get this killed. They technically have another 5 seconds, but having these ad explosions, because remember they do Wade Wide when they die, combo with this rot damage, it can be a little bit of a nasty overlap if that happens. And then as what was mentioned earlier, you're going to notice right here, this tank has 2 seconds of debuff. They put a fiery brand a little bit too early. This might be a DPS fiery brand. But on this Wade Wide, you're going to notice this tank is at 100% HP, no defensives up. And as this Wade Wide casts, boom, 5% HP. Really chunks pretty hard. This tank technically just needs to be able to live, because there's not a whole lot of damage after, but it is a chunky move. Alright, and then going over some quick timers. So you have the 4 Tank Busters, ads will spawn at 1 minute, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, and then they'll fixate about 7 seconds after they spawn. And then this is the assumption of when the first ones are going to be dying. We'll have to see what our ad DPS looks like. But the goal is basically from this 107, we want to CC, knock, grip the ads over, or just wait for the ads to walk over to you, and then kill 3 on both sides before this void buff that happens 30 seconds later. So that is your timer, 30 seconds to kill all these ads. Ideally, as I'll put it, you do not want to kill all 7 ads at the same time. It's a lot of damage that's going to be exploding, and it being comboed with the Tank Buster weight wide damage, that's going to be just a lot of damage to be dealing with, and someone should be calling for a defensive if you notice that every single one is perfectly synced up. One more mechanic that I didn't mention. One person does need to stay in melee. If both things leave melee range, then it'll just melee the next closest person, and if there's absolutely no one in melee, the boss will enrage. It's very similar to Fractalis, TLOs, those types of bosses. They do require one person in melee range.